This podcast is brought to you by the SQPN store at smile.amazon.com. Select SQPN as your eligible charity at smile.amazon.com, and whenever you shop at Amazon by going to smile.amazon.com, you'll support SQPN with a portion of your purchase. Once again, go to smile.amazon.com and select SQPN as your eligible charity.
You're listening to Let's Talk, episode 34, brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network. Howdy all, Father Corey Stika here, back again for our weekly SQPN community podcast, Let's Talk. Glad you could join us. We've got a returning guest, and we've got someone who should be very familiar to the SQPN community going way back. But first of all, Angela, welcome back. Glad to have you on.
Thanks, Father. Glad to be here. And I am exhausted, but we'll get to that reason in a bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this has been a little bit difficult because there's been some miscommunication, but that's all right. We'll get this figured out. And then our new guest, although is not new to SQPN, Greg Willits.
Yes, I thank you. I'm the source of the miscommunication, apparently, and the cause of Angela's exhaustion, since we're...
No, it's not you. This was not you at all. Something else going on. So
I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be a part of this. I think the Let's Talk idea and just the floating conversation every week is one of the cooler things that you guys have been doing at SQPN in recent years. I love it.
Yeah, well, it's, of course, Angela and I were both on Catholic Weekend, and we enjoyed the heck out of it, but it wasn't as wide-reaching a podcast as what we can do with this. So we've really kind of enjoyed being able to do this format instead and have some more fun with it. So before we hear about you, let's hear from Angela. What's going on that's got her so exhausted?
Well, this week I consider to be the end of the Christmas season. And so I took down all of the Christmas decorations today, and the tree that we have is one of those with the, I don't know what it's called, but the white stuff that makes it look like there's snow on it. So that was given to us, and it's very pretty to look at, but it also, like, you inhale so much of that when you're putting it away. So just, going up and down, getting things off of shelves and back onto them and all that good stuff. So that's why I've been so exhausted. So it's been a full day, but it was good. It's just strange to see all of the festivity, the festive feeling just gone from our home.
It is kind of an empty feeling, isn't it, when all those decorations disappear?
So I took the last opportunity to listen to my Carpenter's Christmas Portrait album.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We still have our Christmas decorations up, and I'm very hesitant to take them down because we went away for Christmas. We were gone actually for 12 days. We went and visited my parents, and we didn't. This is the first time in all the years that we've been married that we didn't celebrate Christmas at home, and I thought that we weren't going to decorate, and I would have been completely fine not decorating this year since we weren't going to be here for Christmas. It just seemed kind of silly to put the tree and everything up a week before we left and then have everything. I say silly. I understand. We're still celebrating until the baptism of the Lord. But it's like we did all the work without the payoff. Is that we didn't have the kids around the tree. We didn't open our stockings here at home. We just have all these things that basically we said, let's take everything out, set everything up just so that we could put everything away. And we didn't actually get to enjoy the decorations, which was kind of a strange thing. It didn't feel like Christmas. It literally just felt like we just got a lot of things out of storage, set it up, and then now we're going to put it away again. So our motivation factor for putting it away is very, very low. But tomorrow, I have a feeling that after Mass, someone is going to make that suggestion that we start doing that.
At least you'll get some exercise.
Yeah.
Stretching.
Told myself that tonight as I was shoveling the driveway unexpectedly with like 4 or 5 inches of snow, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to have to do that tonight."
Yeah, I thought you moved south to get or on the way moving south to get away from that.
You know, I was talking to Jennifer, my wife, earlier, and so yeah, we're talking about staying busy in the Christmas season, and and it's hard not to ask God for a special Christmas gift. And my Christmas gift, I started asking him for it last July, which was, please don't make me live through another winter in Indiana. Well, here I am celebrating Christmas, and I'm shoveling the snow. So it's a funny thing, and God has a huge sense of humor. But it's talking about moving the other day. We had someone come look at our house on Friday, and we were really concerned about the Christmas decorations. We're like, well, these people are going to think that we're crazy. It's like, well, you know what? If they buy our house, let them think we're crazy. I don't really care about that. But if they come back and look at it a second time, the Christmas decorations probably should be put away by then.
Yeah, exactly. Not to rub it in or anything, but we didn't have a white Christmas. In fact, we've got absolutely no snow on the ground right now, which is much, much, much better than last winter. I was just commenting. We have like an outdoor nativity set here at the church, and last winter we lost the sheep. He was buried. He was completely. He's probably about 1.5 feet tall, 2 foot tall. Silhouette sheep, and it was completely buried under snow. We couldn't get the nativity set off of the church lawn until Easter.
Wow.
That's so we're actually kind of enjoying this decent winter, I will admit. So, Greg, why don't you, for those who might be listening to Let's Talk for the first time, or maybe really don't know your background with SQPN, why don't you kind of tell your involvement at SQPN and kind of where that's taken you?
Well, my wife and I were really blessed. We started our first podcast, which was for our Rosary Army nonprofit. We started it in March of 2005, just right around the same time that Father Roderick started his first show as well, which was the Catholic Insider. And he was recording Catholic Insider kind of on the go, sometimes in the studio, sometimes from the Vatican, sometimes as, our Holy Father was dying, sometimes as another Holy Father was being elected. All these kinds of things were going on. Father Roderick was recording. And Jennifer and I, again, we were very blessed. First, Catholic couple to ever start a podcast. And it was a timing thing. It really was a God providential, right place, right time thing. Because had we not started then, I don't think that so many of other things that happen in our lives would have happened. But because we started podcasting before Apple even added podcasts to iTunes, before a lot of Catholics started listening to podcasts, when they did start listening and when Apple did add it and they would search for Catholic, our podcast just happened to always pop up right at the very top. And so people would check us out and give it a shot. They would start hearing about us. And in those early days, what was great about it, there was a small group called Disciples with Microphones also. A small group of Catholic podcasters that were just trying to support each other. And so there weren't a lot of us, and there weren't a lot of Catholic podcasts. So if we wanted to listen to one, we were listening to each other's shows. And it really showed early on, number one, just the importance of community within Catholic New Media, how vitally important community is, not only for the sake of the podcaster, because we depend upon the community to help spread the news. I mean, SQPN depends upon people telling other people about SQPN. But it helps the podcaster. It's edifying when you see fruit happening. If you don't see fruit, well, you just kind of feel like you're out there plowing a rocky field that's never going to do anything, and you just give up. And so that community, that correspondence with the audience means so much. And we started hearing from a lot of people who were saying, because at first our podcast is funny. If you go, I leave it out there as an act of humility. Our first episodes are still out there from Rosary Army, and they're horrible. And they sound like we're talking into a tin can. And the first ones, probably the first dozen or so, it was just me. And to this day, my wife Jennifer has never gone back and listened to the first Rosary Army podcast. She has no idea what I said on that first episode. And I kept going upstairs. I'm like, I'm going to go record another podcast. And she's like, okay, whatever that is. Again, 2005, no one knew what they were. And I was recording these things, and the first ones were all about Rosary Army. It's like, okay, well, we're kind of short on purple twine this week, folks, and so if you're making rosaries, we could use more purple rosaries. And so it was all about what the apostolate was doing. And then I had an IT job, and I got laid off. And I was ticked off. I was really angry. And one night I went to go get takeout for me and Jennifer, because that's what you do when you're suddenly unemployed and broke. You spend it going to takeout. And I had my old first-generation iPod with this little microphone attachment doohickey that you plugged into the power slot on the bottom of it. And I recorded a podcast of just me talking about how frustrated I was, but at the same time just trying to learn how to trust God. And I just put the thing out there. It was raw. I didn't edit it. It was a monologue. And started hearing from people saying, I lost my job, and I swear, listening to you, it sounded like I was listening to myself. I can't tell you how much that helped me. And we just realized that we were onto something, and even when there weren't a lot of listeners. And so at that same time, started to get to know Father Roderick. There's a lot of what I call the Happy Days Laverne and Shirley syndrome going on, because all these podcasters were talking about each other on their shows. And so if you listen to one show and someone says, well, I was talking to Greg, and says, oh, yeah, and they'd start listening to my show. And if I said, oh, well, Father Roderick said the other day, well, who's Father Roderick? And so, it was the whole idea of a rising tide raises all ships. And so we were all heavily not promoting. It wasn't even promotion. It was very organic, which was also part of the community. It was great. People felt like they were a part of something. They were part of a movement. They knew these people. And when they would hear their favorite show mentioned on someone else's show, it made them feel good for some reason. And so that just kept happening throughout 2005 as these other Catholic podcasts would show up and we'd start talking to them. And then Father Roderick had the idea of starting a network. And there were a lot of secular groups that figured that out pretty early on to start these. There were all these networks. There was a comedy podcast network, and there was, Adam Curry doing his network of shows, and all these different networks. And Father Roderick came up with the StarQuest Production Network, and he wanted to have those initials, SQPN. He really wanted to sound like a TV network. He wanted to sound like EWTN or ESPN. He wanted that something PN and have that sound. And we were the first show that he brought on to the network, the Rosary Army podcast. And so we were posting it on Rosary Army. We're posting it over there. And then Javier Plume and a few other guys, they did the Hands and Feet podcast. They came on next. We brought on some other podcasters over time. Eventually, we brought on Mac and Catherine with Catholic in a Small Town. And Paul Camerata with the Saint Cast, and Father Seraphim Bishoner with Catholic Under the Hood. Father Jay Finelli with iPadre. Just started bringing on all these different podcasts with different voices, different tones, different content, different presentation styles, because there wasn't this, there was a need to have a different voice for all the different people that were out there. And we wanted to maintain our different sounds, because we knew that not everyone was going to like Greg and Jennifer, but they'd like Father Roderick. Not everyone would like Father Roderick, but they might like Greg and Jennifer. They were looking for people to identify with, and there was something so intimate that was different from radio. Radio, you have to be in your car at a certain time, and you have certain control over people. It's like, you turn it on, and they're there, but you have a little less control than you do with podcasts, because if you get out of your car, they're going to keep talking, and you don't get to hear what they say. But with podcasts, you could carry people in your pocket, and you could tell them when to start talking. You could tell them when to pause talking. You could tell them to talk to you at the grocery store or when you're working. You could tell them exactly, and you could pick up the conversation right where you left off. And it really just, that intimacy grew. So as Father Roderick wanted to turn SQP into something more official, and Jennifer and I had experience running a nonprofit through Rosary Army, through establishing it. I had a lot of managerial experience through the IT industry. Jennifer had accounting experience. We all three had production experience now, and it just made sense for us all to come together. So we incorporated SQPN as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and I think it was official in October of 2005, if I remember correct. We went down to the courthouse or down in downtown Atlanta to do that, and there's video of it somewhere. Father Roderick was videotaping everything at the time. And so that was the very, very basic beginning of it. But then all through 2006, I'm still at the IT, my IT job. Jennifer's a stay-at-home mom. Father Roderick is over in the Netherlands making his shows. And so we're trying to do things. And that 2006 was an insane year, because I was getting up at 4:30, 5 in the morning, trying to figure out, did Father launch a show while I was sleeping? And, was I going to have to do marketing for it while at lunch? And then at night, answering emails and doing more production work. And so pretty much all of our vacations, all of our weekends, to the point where at the end of 2006, I remember right where I was sitting in a church parking lot when I had, the realization that either I was going to have to quit SQPN and Rosary Army, or I was going to have to quit my job because I couldn't do both anymore. And just praying and making the decision. And I remember sending Father, again, the technology at the time was so funny, sending Father Roderick an email. He had some goofy way of calling me from the Netherlands, to my cell phone, which was, the old little flip phone thing. And now we're like, why is that so difficult? It was really difficult. It was a really weird technology. The numbers that came through on my phone was strange. But I told him, I said, I really need you to call me right now. And we somehow got Jennifer on the call at the same time. And the three of us said, and I said, I think we need to do a giving campaign for both Rosary Army and SQPN, and we really need to shoot for the moon. We need to just go for it, because if we don't, it's all going to fall apart. If we don't do this, then I have to quit, and if I quit, Jennifer's going to have to quit, and Father Roderick, what are we going to do? And we all just said, let's do it. And we said, this was October of 2005 or 2006. We knew All Saints Day was coming up, and that was traditionally when we would do a giving campaign for Rosary Army. We always did it starting on All Saints Day. So we said, well, let's just do it starting on All Saints Day for Rosary Army and All Saints Day for SQPN. We'll do two giving campaigns simultaneously. We'll tell people you can give to one or the other or both. And we had a goal of $80,000 that year. And we said we're going to do it for 2 months. We had all of the podcasters record snippets of a novena prayer to St. Maximilian Kolbe, asking him for the intercession leading up to this. And we molded it all together, and we had all of our listeners download it, and they were all praying it. We played it on our shows. And on December 31st, 2006, really shortly before midnight, we crossed that goal. And it was...
That's awesome.
I mean, it was it wasn't even what we needed. It was so much less than what we needed. It was... how much can we raise so that we can all live on rice and beans for the next 12 months and make podcasts and other productions? What is the very bare minimum? We gave up insurance. We gave up so much to be able to do it, because we just knew this is where God was taking us. And so that's the very basic beginning of SQPN. And after that, I mean, I literally was only a part of it then for another year and a half, I think. And then radio came calling. And again, we didn't have insurance, and Jennifer was pregnant. And it's like, have a baby for a $500 copay or for $10,000 out of pocket.
Yeah.
So we took the job, and I had to resign from SQPN. And there have been times I mean, the last 10 years, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years since I was actively a part of SQPN.
Sure.
It blows my mind, but I always will have a love for it. I will always say it's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, and I'm so blessed to have been there to see its conception at the very beginning and to be a part of it. I will never ever stop being thankful for that.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. And I hope what we're doing now with Dom kind of taking that chair now that he's taken it over for full time, and the building up that we're able to do with Let's Talk and the secrets of shows that we're doing and all this other stuff. I hope we're kind of continuing in that spirit and moving it forward for another 10 years. That's kind of our hope. But you didn't stop doing things with podcasting and all that other stuff after that, did you? What are you up to now? I mean, of course, 10 years, jumping ahead 10 years, but you got a lot of irons in the fire still, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, around 2011, again, we kept creating these other ministries. So it's like it started with Rosary Army, and then SQPN came on. And then even when we moved to radio, we had developed TotalConsecration.com. So we recorded all of the prayers of St. Louis Marie de Montfort, and we encouraged people to go through the preparation for total consecration to Jesus through Mary. And, we had all these audio rosaries, and we had developed through a partnership with SQPN, That Catholic Show, which was one of the first Catholic video series ever created, online video series. And in many ways, we almost started that too early. I look at when we put those first episodes on YouTube, And I just kind of shake my head. I'm like, okay, that one, the timing wasn't as good as podcasting. I wish I'd waited like another year to do the video. It was almost like it was too early to really catch on. But it did. I mean, still, those videos are still used around the world. We still hear from people who use them for RCIA around the world. And it's so funny because we go back and look at that, and I'm like, that's my wife. Man, she's really young. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, she looks like she's 12 in these videos, and it was only 11 years ago. But we created all these different ministries, and it just got kind of confusing to explain to people, what do you do? It's like, well, we have a radio show on Sirius XM, which we don't have anymore, but we do this Rosary Army thing, and we also have Total Consecration and that Catholic show. And we just realized what we were doing we were creating different ministries at the service of the new evangelization. And to be able to create tools and resources to help people to know their faith, live their faith, and share their faith. That's ultimately what we were doing. And how do we represent that? And so it's been a journey now of 7 years since we actually launched newevangelizers.com. And organizationally, we changed a lot of things. Even though people look at Rosary Army as the main thing, we made New Evangelizers be the top of the umbrella, so to say, so that New Evangelizers is that home of tools and resources, and Rosary Army and TotalConsecration.com and that Catholic show and anything else that we may develop. Because that's the thing. Jennifer and I can't stop developing new ideas, new concepts, new ministries, because it's just a part of us. It's something that we'd love to do. We'd love to help build those new communities, and knowing that there's so many aspects of our faith that we can do good work in, we can't narrow it down to one thing. If we want to do a Bible study, for example, it would be weird to say it's a Rosary Army Bible study. Well, what does that, it's just confusing to some people, right? But a New Evangelizers Bible study, or whatever the next brand, whatever it might be. So New Evangelizers really is something that we've been building up slowly over the years, and helping people to understand the brand of New Evangelizers. I think that there was a lot of confusion. A lot of people didn't get it at first, but I think now they do. And so when we add something new, and we're getting ready to rebrand and redo all of our websites, that our different ministries will say Rosary Army, a ministry of newevangelizers.com, and Total Consecration, a ministry of newevangelizers.com, just to hold all those things together, that these are all tools and resources that kind of serve different functions within serving the church. And one of the things that we have done, again, is that we did another giving campaign, raised just the bare minimum. How much can we raise to be able to eat rice and beans for the next 12 months? And we didn't, even then we didn't reach our goal, but we raised a significant amount so that we are going to be able to completely redesign all of our websites, to be able to develop and implement new outreach campaigns for each of those ministries that we do, plus developing a lot of new content, including some new podcasts and video content that we're going to be creating here, hopefully in the next few months. And we're actively in that development right now. In many ways, it's like the early days of Catholic New Media all over again for my wife and I, because we made that choice again after we left SQPN. We went to radio for 4.5 years. After that, we weren't sure what to do. I ended up going to work for an archdiocese, worked for a Catholic publisher for a couple of years, but really where we felt God kept, just drawing us back to, because the two jobs after the radio one didn't take advantage of the creativity that I feel like God gave me, and the thing that makes me thrive, the thing that makes me get excited, to be able to use the God-given creativity and talents that God gave me to be able to help people grow in their faith. And I feel like those last two jobs kind of fell apart so that God can get me right back to where I started in some ways 10 years ago, which is running Rosary Army and New Evangelizers, and pouring my creativity into those things so that I can help people where they're at in life.
Can I just testify to people still use New Evangelizers, because I've been involved in getting a retreat together locally, and somebody is volunteering to do a session on the scriptural rosary. And I said, oh, hey, Rosary Army, that would be a good resource. So, I continually use that, and I'm sure there are other people out there I know that are using New Evangelizers resources. So yeah, just like you said, but I wanted to be another voice in support of what y'all are doing.
Thanks. And my wife has, when I took the job in Colorado for the Archdiocese there back in 2013, I told Jennifer, I said, again, this is sort of where I was at the end of the IT industry. I just couldn't imagine having a job and running the ministry at the same time. When I was on radio, I could do it, but taking this desk job, going back into an office again for the first time in many years, I said, I can't do it. So Jennifer has done a fantastic job over the last few years. Rosary Army, in many ways, has just become a well-oiled machine. I can show you right here. We have all of these rosaries and bins right here that you can't see. and the rosaries come in from rosary makers, and then the rosaries go back out to people who have requested one. And so that we keep teaching people how to make, pray, and give away rosaries. She just kept that well-oiled machine working, and we have DVDs and CDs that we give away, and the requests come in, and they go right back out again. And so she's been able to keep that going. Where she is so talented and blessed is in her administrative abilities to be able to keep things going like that. Where we're so complementary and work together is the fact that I can't stop coming up with new ideas. And so working with her again full time as we've been for the last few months, we've been able to get a lot done, and we're excited to be able to start showing what some of those things will be in the coming year.
Oh,
so new things,
excellent,
Angela,
yeah.
new things, even more.
Yeah. There we go. That's a good thing. No, I was kind of surprised when you said 7 years for New Evangelizers, because I still remember when you guys when you started that and got that going, it's like, is that long ago? Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
We're old.
Yeah, I know, right?
Our friends Mac and Catherine from Catholic in a Small Town, we have spent, I think, every New Year's since 2006, they were at our house at the end of that giving campaign. They were at our house. We're sitting at our kitchen table. We were doing live streaming then, back in 2006 on Ustream, trying to get people to donate. We've spent every New Year's with them except for 2 since 2006. So that's quite a few. And we were just visiting with them for this New Year's. We went to their house again, and the memory came up of when New Evangelizers launched, and it launched on January 1st. And they were giving me a hard time because, and Catherine was saying, I remember Greg told us before you came, it's like, I'm going to be really busy. And we were at their house, and I was planted in a certain chair just trying to do all that stupid web work. And I'm just going nuts that whole time. I'm like, yeah, I know. I stayed very focused on trying to launch that. But that was 7 years ago, 2011 going into 2012.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, excellent. Well, it is good to have you on Let's Talk, and and kind of again continue the work that's been done, and of course promote the work that you are doing. However, I think we'll kind of shift gears here a little bit. We didn't just bring Greg on to talk about himself, although that helps too. One thing. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about New Year's resolutions. We had a good conversation about that. Well, a lot of people, they've got their resolutions, they've started on them, and now we're a couple of weeks into the new year, and what happens to those resolutions? They start dropping off. Everybody starts thinking, oh yeah, I can do this. I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to, never mind. I'm going to stay home and watch TV, And so now, Angela, you're saying that there's I only just heard about this the other day myself, but there's a show on Netflix that is actually really trending big, and it's about, of all things, organization.
Yeah. So probably some of you who are listening will be familiar with this now, but there's a Japanese woman who has come up with an organizing technique. And she's been around for a few years in the news and on TV, stuff like that. Her name is Marie Kondo. And I think even Father Roderick has talked about following her method before. But now she has a Netflix show, and it's called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. And I've been watching it. And apparently my friends and family have also, because I'm seeing social media posts about getting organized. And it's interesting, how organization is kind of my MO. But the way that I think the way that she presents it is more about, I think a lot of us when we're cleaning and organizing, it kind of comes off as a chore and something that, has to involve a lot of work and a lot of making horrible decisions about what to get rid of. But I like her approach in that she really emphasizes that the respect for the things that you have, being grateful, expressing gratitude toward the things that have served their purpose or have taught you a lesson and now you're ready to let go of them. And then also envisioning for yourself what you want your future for your home, for your family life to be like, and making decisions toward that rather than thinking about what you don't want to do. And I think a lot of us tend towards that negative side of, the mentality when you're trying to get rid of all your junk, quote unquote. So it seems like this is really catching on. I was even, organizing this morning as I was getting rid of, the Christmas decorations. And I was, of course, coming across other boxes and things. And, so I couldn't help but start tidying up myself. And I texted my sister a picture of some things that I didn't want. And she said, "Oh, are you doing the KonMari method?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." So, it's very interesting. I don't know if you all have gotten to a place at some point recently where you were doing a lot of tidying up and organizing, but it's something that I think is needed in our culture and our society here in the U.S. There's just so much stuff that we have, and I find that this show seems to be helping people to feel more free of the materialistic, trying to fill yourself up with things. So it's very interesting.
We've been and we've been watching the show. I actually checked out the book from the library last year, and it sat on my Kindle for three whole weeks, and I didn't so much as start reading it. But the idea of it, just when I saw the title from her book, was it The Magic Art of Tidying Up or the something like that? That when the show started, and Jennifer, my wife, had never heard of her, had never heard of this concept, and I said, "Well, let's watch this first episode." Well, I was really surprised that out of Jennifer's closet in the next 24 hours came 2 huge garbage bags full of clothes that we then dropped off at Goodwill. And I just today read an article that clothes closets, Goodwill, normally this time of year after New Year's, they do see an uptick of donations. And so it's a little too early to tell if they're seeing an uptick in donations this particular year because of the Tidying Up TV show, but used bookstores are seeing huge amounts of donations of books because of her show. One bookseller that they interviewed said that they got over a month's worth of books. In other words, the amount of books they normally bring in over the course of a month from donations in 2 days. That they almost don't even know what to do with all these books. They have so many books because people realize, our bookshelves are cluttered with books that we just say, well, look at these books. Did you ever read that? Well, no, but look at my books. Do you ever plan on reading that book? No, but look at my books. It's like I'm saying, and I listen, I love a good bookshelf, and that's one of the things that whenever I go to someone's house, because I'm very introverted, and so at parties, I say, "Oh, hi, good to see you," and then I'm over at the bookshelf looking at what they read, and I love looking at bookshelves, and I get it. We have a pretty sizable library, but we're in the process right now of already, even though we still have kids at home, we want to downsize. And we have so much, we have so much stuff. And when you move into one house and you say, well, we need this knick-knack thing for that corner of that house, and then you move, and then you bring that with you into a new house, and then you say, well, then that house has a different corner that needs a different knick-knack, but you didn't get rid of the knick-knack that you had from the other house, And so suddenly you're moving all these knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone junk all over the country with you over and over again. Or, you just allow yourself to be surrounded with these things. And one of the things that I really like, the way that Marie Kondo addresses things, right down to T-shirts, is So, for example, and if you haven't seen it, what she says for clothes, you take all your clothes out of your closet, you put them on a big pile on your bed or wherever, and you pick up each one and you look at it and you ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does this make anything arise within me? And that's something I get. And that, I think, is to me, the main key of it. What does she call it? The KonMari method? Which I just call it the Marie Kondo thing. And I like that idea, because then I can look around a house and I can look at various objects and say, is that doing anything for me? Does it really feed me? And if not, why am I allowing that thing to still be here with me? Could it be blessing someone else? Even though it might suddenly be a joyless thing to me, could it give joy to someone else? Could I give that thing away to someone who wants it? Not because I'm just trying to unload it, but is there someone that would genuinely appreciate that book or that thing or whatever it might be? And then you suddenly look around your house and you realize, I have this house full of blessings that I've been hoarding. I've been keeping all these things rather than blessing someone else with these things. And I think about all of our books. Man, I wish postage wasn't so expensive, because I know 1,000 people I'd love to give some of my books to, and just send them off. But we hope when we move, I would like to be moving with a minimum of 1/3 less of what's in the house right now. We want to get rid of a lot of things, and so that means that some of our children are kind of scared.
I will say from personal experience, we moved a lot when I was a kid, and of course, moving with the Air Force and seminary and priests, this is the longest I've lived in one place, is being here now for a little over 8.5 years. And moving is a great way to get rid of stuff, because you look at everything and go, do I really want to move that, or do I want to just toss it or give it to someone else? And that's been part of my problem, is I've been here for so long and I haven't had that outlet to say, do I really need this or not? So, I definitely have a need for this kind of organization. So I'm going to have to go check out these videos. There was also, it was interesting. I can't remember who it was. One of the priests at seminary, he was one of our spiritual advisors, said that, of course, talking about our dorm rooms, that the state of your room reflects the state of your spiritual life. If your room is a mess, your spiritual life is a mess. And I kind of look around my house and go, yeah, this is not a good thing. Because there is, I think, and I get the feeling just from what you're saying is, I think she kind of keys on that too of, we tend to hoard this stuff. We tend to collect this stuff. We tend to hold on to this stuff because there's something inside of us that isn't, we don't think it's complete until we have, it's this materialistic idea. And of course, we live in a culture that says you're never going to be happy until you have the latest car, the biggest house, the new toy. Oh, yes. Make sure you have the new Apple iBook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, And
I think didn't Augustine say, my heart is restless until I rest in IKEA, O Lord?
Exactly. Exactly. No, that was Apple. No, that he said. No, it was but it is. We're such a materialistic culture, and I think we realize that. I think a lot of people recognize that, but taking that next step to say, okay, I need to do something about this. That's a whole different story, especially when, again, you are standing there looking at, oh, but I've had this teddy bear for 30 years. What do you do with it? Well, it sits in a box. Do you really need to keep that teddy bear? Is there a kid that maybe could enjoy that teddy bear? I've got, again, books. I always love priests, and books are huge. I've got my wall of bookshelf over here, and I purposely don't film in front of it because I don't want to be the next Bishop Barron wannabe. Bishop Barron got that look set, and I don't want to, be imitating him. Someone said you have to see my printer behind me, but when we go live, you'll get to see that. But, but being able to parse things down, being able to pare things down, to live that simpler life. We might not do the same exact approach as Christians that she does, but we do believe in having a detachment from the world of some, being in the world, but not of the world, not allowing possessions to rule our lives, but for them to be tools that we can enjoy, tools that we can have and experience life with. But ultimately, if we lost it all, we'd move on because we've got more important things like our Lord to think about.
My wife was saying, because one of the things that I did have difficulty with the KonMari method was what Marie Kondo wants you to do is like pick up the shirt and then thank the shirt for whatever it did. And I was like, that just kind of makes me feel a little weird. It's like we found a box of old iPhones. It's terrible.
Oh boy.
And it's like I'd have to pick up my iPhone and go, thank you, iPhone, for being. And then Jennifer just simply said, thank God. Pick up the shirt and say, thank you, God, for this shirt that I enjoyed for that time, that I remember when I got this. Thank you for that moment, God. Thank you for that. And thank you for, what? I remember when standing in line, and I remember the people I was talking to when I got this. Thank you, God, for that moment and that instance, and how this helped me to do some things with technology that I couldn't do before. Thank you, God, for that blessing. And so rather than turning it on, the thanks to an inanimate object, or even turning the things onto yourself, well, give thanks to he who deserves all the thanks for everything that we have in the first place, the person who blessed us in the first place. Because everything that we have is not ours, it's God's. It's just on loan to us. And so thank him for that gift that he gave us. And then suddenly it becomes, again, that act of gratitude, which is so difficult. I have the hardest time being thankful. I have, that praying in reverse so often of like, say, well, if you're not happy about something, then thank God for it. I'm like, but I'm not thankful for it. It's like, I mean, to have that opportunity to practice it on small things will make it easier to be thankful for the things that maybe are more difficult to be thankful for in our lives.
Yeah. And even if it's not necessarily, a happy memory or something, but even if it's just a piece of, you bought it at the 99-cent store and it's just kind of been sitting on the shelf, to say, thank you, God, that I have learned that I don't need this in my life. Just that lesson that you get from getting rid of that, or just holding that thing and looking at it and saying, does this bring me joy? What am I doing with this in my house? So, yeah.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I think one difficulty, of course, with something like this is developing that habit then of, not just, okay, so one day you could watch her show, read her book, and, oh, this is great, and go out there and clean up one of your rooms or clean up a cabinet or something like that. But then the next day and the next day, and how do we develop that habit then of thanksgiving to God, but also of this cleaning, this uncluttering might be a good way to put it.
Well, and she talks about that. And I think part of it is, and this has been, again, the case for what little bit we've done. And Jennifer, she even shows you how to fold your clothes a certain way to put them into your drawers. And that's, to me, I'm like, ooh, every time you do laundry to have to fold all that stuff and put it back in like that. But the idea of once you do it once, there's a satisfaction in doing it that there's some endorphins or something going off that you tie into, again, that joy, that these are things that I have that do bring me joy, and so I do want to take care of them. And so it becomes a little it takes a little less effort once you've gone through the process of sort of looking at everything and being grateful for the things, especially for the things you keep. If it brings up some sort of joy, you suddenly realize the preciousness of certain things, and you want to do it, which is, again, I can think of many things that, I have like a little space it's a very little space that's mine, where I get, this is Dad's space. This is Dad's corner. Don't mess with Dad's corner. And I have a Rubik's Cube and a bust of John Paul II. And guess this is probably the only two things that haven't moved unless I move them. I keep them in a certain place because it brings me a certain amount of pleasure and joy that they're where I put them. And these are things that matter to me. And the kids can't move them around.
They've resisted the challenge of the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. Well, that's because Dad stole it from them in the first place. So they quit. They quit playing with it. I'm like, well, if you're not gonna play with it, fine. I'm gonna take it. And now it's Dad's. So there you go.
There you go. No, very. I mean, Very interesting. And, one blog I've followed off and on for years is the Uncluttered blog, and they deal with a lot of this stuff, but they don't put quite the spirituality, if you will, because I know one thing that is one criticism of Marie Kondo is she kind of brings in a lot of that Shinto nature religion into it. And of course she's Japanese, so that actually would be kind of expected that she would kind of maybe have more of that approach. But that doesn't mean we still can't learn from that approach. Like you said, Greg, instead of, thank you, shirt, for being such a wonderful shirt, no, thank you, God, for this shirt, for the experiences I had wearing it, or whatever.
I think when I first heard about her, it was when she was going around promoting her book. And I think there was a lot more emphasis on some of those elements that kind of turned me off. And I thought, I don't really need this. But I think the show sort of makes it more applicable because there are different, types of families who are going through different situations in their life. There's a widow, who just lost her husband, and there's newlyweds and families and so forth. So you get to see a little bit more of how she adapts to the different personalities and the different needs of the families. And I really appreciated that she said, this is about you and your family and the future that you want to have. So, if maybe you've heard of her before, or maybe even if you read the book, I don't know, and you just kind of thought, whatever, not for me, I would say try it out, see what you think, see the show. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. So, well, excellent. That's good to hear. And I'm going to have to go check it out. I'm going to have to go watch it because I have a lot of stuff that I need to be thankful for as it goes out the door. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and then we'll switch over to our picks of the week. But once again, I want to thank you for listening to Let's Talk. We at SQPN enjoy putting this on for you. It's always a pleasure for us to put this show together and to bring up topics like these of things we think would be interesting for you as an SQPN community. We have some new podcasts, of course. This is one of the rebooted ones that we've done. But just this week, we have launched a brand new podcast, The Secrets of Technology. A number of us, for the first episode, was myself, Dom, and Joanne got together, and we talked about the purpose of this podcast, which is to share technology, to talk about technology, but not in your typical pundit way. So many technological pundits, they're in the technological world. They're always talking, they've got 4 cell phones a year that they're using, and this one's better than this one. You need to buy this one. Well, I just bought the last one. I can't afford the new one, and they get in all these issues. Instead, what we want to do is we want to talk about how we use technology in our lives. We want to talk about how we view technology from a Catholic perspective, of course. And that's one of the big missions of SQPN, is always to bring the faith to perspective, bring the world and the faith in conversation. And so check out Secrets of Technology at sqpn.com. I think you'll enjoy it. We really had a good conversation, and going forward, we'll have other panelists as well. We'll do similar to Let's Talk, where it'll be a rotating panelist talking about technology and how we use that technology and how it works with our Catholic faith. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Let's Talk and the other SQPN podcasts. Today, we want to thank Jeremy S., Joanne M., Christine G., Pat F., and Steve S. Through their generous donations at sqpn.com/give, they make it possible for us to continue Let's Talk and all the shows at sqpn.com. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com.give. And again, I want to thank everyone who do give generously to SQPN, have given generously in the past, and continue to do so into the future. So thank you all very much for your support of SQPN. All right, now let's switch over to our picks of the week. Excuse me, I was about to say Joanne. I was thinking of the Secrets of Technology. Angela, would you like to go first?
Sure. Well, mine is on a similar note to our last segment. I I have a wonderful YouTube recommendation, a YouTube channel called Do It on a Dime. So if you go check out Do It on a Dime, it's this wonderful woman named Catherine, who is a former school teacher, is a mom, and she has some fabulous tips on how to get organized, but also to how to take care of your family on a very little budget. So anybody can take advantage of this, and she's very enthusiastic. I mean, sometimes the videos don't even apply to me, but I still watch because she's so happy and excited, and it just brightens my day. She is also a Christian, and so she brings in her faith sometimes. So check out Do It on a Dime on YouTube.
Excellent. That sounds like an interesting one to check out. Yeah, definitely have to look at that. And I might find more there that I need to do. Parishes often operate on, if not dimes, nickels. So that's a good thing. How about you, Greg? Do you got something for us?
And mine's also going to tap into our previous segment in talking about just the peacefulness that comes from getting organized. One of my favorite websites that I just always enjoy looking at. It just brings me peace just to sort of go through these very simple posts. It is a Tumblr account that you can find at thingsorganizedneatly.tumblr.com. Things Organized Neatly. And it's pictures of things organized neatly. That's all it is. And you go and look at it, and like the first picture today, it's a multiple cups of coffee stacked on each other based on their shades of cream and whatever else is put into it. You know, so we have these varying colors. You see people decorating or showing all of their Christmas decorations all lined up to look like a Christmas tree, or all these hockey things lined up to look like a Christmas tree, or all of their ornaments or pencils just lined up very nicely. And it's a website I've been going to for years, and I just find it fascinating to look at some of the creative ways that people will organize books, or just, I can't even explain it. Just go look at it. I'm looking at a picture right now of an old man with his violin collection, and it's just, there's something peaceful about how all these things are lined up. It's just thingsorganizedneatly.tumblr.com.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely have to check that one out as well. Well, I'm gonna shift gears for my my pick, and it actually is something Greg mentioned about how podcasts would promote each other, even if kind of more unofficially, but it's something that I think the podcasting world has gotten away from as a whole. They might mention another podcast. I heard it on this, but it's not quite to the level. So I'm gonna promote a podcast. It's not an SQPN podcast, although check out all our SQPN podcasts as well. But one I really like is Ask Father Josh. This is actually something through Ascension Press, and he's a younger priest. He's younger than me, so he's a much younger priest. He's kind of more into hip hop and things like that, but he does a really good job answering questions about the faith, and they can be anything from moral issues, theological issues, spiritual issues, just living the faith issues. He does a really good job, so I definitely want to encourage people to check that out. Ask Father Josh. Again, your Catholic question and answer podcast. He subtitled it. So, like I said, he does a really good job and brings a great perspective to the issues of the faith. So, well, thank you both very much for coming on. Greg, where can people find you?
Well, they can find our ministries at newevangelizers.com, and they can listen to the podcast that my wife and I create each week, Adventures in Imperfect Living, over at gregandjennifer.com.
Excellent. And Angela?
Well, you can hit me up on Twitter at InspiredAngela.
Excellent. And again, I'm Father Corey Stika. You can reach me on Facebook. Father Corey Stika is my page. FR Corey Stika is my Twitter handle. And frcorey.org is my website where I post my homilies. And of course, you can find me here on SQPN, Secrets of Star Trek, Secrets of Doctor Who, and here at Let's Talk. If you have feedback for us here at Let's Talk about this episode or any of our episodes, please send us an email at letstalk, no apostrophe, at sqpn.com. And once again, visit our giving site at sqpn.com/give. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.